The knife gleamed under the streetlight. 3 men, 1 woman, and me, frozen a block away with groceries in one hand and my daughter's hand in the other. I should have kept walking, that's what most people do. But when I heard her scream echo through that alley, something inside me snapped back to life. Something I thought I'd buried years ago when I stopped believing the world could be saved one person at a time. That night, I didn't know I was rescuing Zoe Lewis, the CEO, whose face had been on every business magazine for the past decade. I just saw someone who needed help. What I didn't expect was that pulling her out of that darkness would pull me out of mine. That saving her life would somehow save what was left of ours. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The rain hit Seattle harder than the weather report promised. Not the gentle mist everyone jokes about, but the kind of downpour that turns sidewalks into rivers and makes you question every decision that led you outside. I had Sophie buckled into her raincoat, the purple one with the dinosaur hood, and we were hauling 2 bags of groceries from the corner market on Ashford Street. Taking the alley behind Morrison Plaza was supposed to cut 5 minutes off our walk. Sophie was in the middle of explaining why her teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, was actually a secret superhero because he could solve any math problem in under 10 seconds. I was half listening, half focused on not dropping the eggs, when I heard it. A scream, sharp and desperate, the kind that cuts through rain and traffic and every excuse your brain tries to manufacture about why it's not your problem. I stopped dead. Sophie's hand tightened around mine. "What was that?" she whispered. I set the grocery bags down against the brick wall, my heart already shifting into a rhythm I recognized from years ago. Before the accident. Before I became the guy who fixed washing machines instead of saving lives. "Stay right here, Sophie. Don't move. Hold Mr. Patches and count to 100, okay?" She clutched her stuffed elephant closer, eyes wide but trusting. "Okay, Daddy." I moved toward the sound. The alley branched off into a narrower passage behind the old Hartley building, where the streetlights didn't quite reach. 3 shapes materialized in the rain-soaked darkness. 2 men standing, 1 woman on the ground, her back pressed against a dumpster. "Please," she was saying, voice shaking. "Just take the bag, take everything, please." One of the men lunged forward and grabbed her wrist. She cried out. That's when my body remembered what my mind had been trying to forget. Every self-defense drill, every simulation, every principle they drilled into us about staying calm when everyone else is losing it. Let her go. My voice came out steady, louder than I expected. All 3 of them turned. The 2 men were young, maybe early 20s, wearing dark hoodies, pulled low. One had a knife, small but visible in the dim light from a distant street lamp. The woman on the ground was dressed in what used to be an expensive charcoal suit, now soaked and smeared with mud. "Walk away, old man," the one with the knife said. "This doesn't concern you." "I'm asking nicely," I said, taking a step forward. "Step away from her, now." The second mugger, bulkier than his friend, started toward me. "You want to be a hero? Bad night for it." I didn't move. Didn't raise my voice. Just stood there, hands loose at my sides, weight balanced. I've learned something over the years. Most people who want to hurt someone are looking for fear. When they don't find it, they recalculate. The big one got within arm's reach. I could smell cigarettes and cheap cologne. He shoved my shoulder, testing. I still didn't move. Something changed in his eyes. Doubt, maybe. Or just the realization that, whatever he expected, I wasn't giving it to him. He glanced back at his partner with the knife. "Man, forget this," the second one muttered. "Not worth it." The one with the knife hesitated, then spat on the ground. "Your funeral, if you follow us." They backed away, slow at first, then faster, disappearing into the maze of alleys that connected this part of Ashford District. I waited until their footsteps faded completely before I moved. The woman was shaking, arms wrapped around herself, a leather laptop bag clutched to her chest like armor. Her ankle was twisted at an angle that made me wince. "You're safe now," I said, kneeling beside her. "They're gone." She looked up at me, rain streaming down her face, mixing with tears. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent despite the fear. "I can't stand my ankle." "I can see that. Do you need me to call someone? Ambulance? Police?" "No." The word came out too fast, too panicked. She caught herself, softened her tone. "No police. Please. I just need to get out of here." There was a story there, but I didn't push. Sometimes people have reasons for the things they ask. "All right," I said quietly. "I'm going to help you up. This might hurt." She nodded, bracing herself. When I lifted her, she was lighter than I expected, but the pain still made her gasp. She leaned heavily against me, favoring the injured foot. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah," I said. "I did." We made our way back to where Sophie waited, exactly where I'd left her, counting under her breath with Mr. Patches pressed to her chest. When she saw us, her eyes went huge. "Daddy, is the lady okay?" "She's hurt, sweetheart. We're going to help her get somewhere warm and dry." Sophie studied the woman with that serious, evaluating look kids get when they're trying to understand adult problems. "You can come to our house. Daddy makes really good hot chocolate." The woman's lips trembled into something almost like a smile. "That sounds perfect." I retrieved the grocery bags with my free hand, the woman leaning on my other side, and we started the slow journey to my apartment building 6 blocks away. The Belmont Arms wasn't much to look at, a 6-story brick structure that had seen better decades, but it was home. The elevator was broken, as usual. I carried the groceries and supported the woman up 4 flights of stairs, her breathing labored and uneven. Sophie led the way, holding Mr. Patches like a tiny guide leading refugees to safety. By the time we reached apartment 4C, my arms were burning and the woman's face had gone pale. I unlocked the door and helped her to the couch, a second-hand thing with questionable springs but clean cushions. She sank into it like she'd been walking for days. Sophie disappeared into her room and returned with her favorite blanket, the one with stars and moons, and draped it carefully over the woman's shoulders. "There," Sophie said. "Now you won't be cold." The woman's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different, softer. "Thank you, sweetheart. What's your name?" "Sophie Newman." "I'm 7. That's my daddy, Seth. He used to save people all the time before." "Before what?" the woman asked, looking at me. "Before I didn't," I said, heading to the kitchen. "Let me get some ice for that ankle." While I wrapped ice in a clean towel, I caught a glimpse of her through the doorway. She was looking around the apartment, taking in the mismatched furniture, Sophie's drawings taped to the walls, the stack of repair manuals on the coffee table. Her gaze lingered on a photo on the shelf. Me and Sophie at the beach last summer, both of us squinting into the sunday. When I came back, she accepted the ice pack without a word. I knelt and examined her ankle more closely. Swollen, already bruising, but the bone felt intact. "Probably a bad sprain," I said. "You should see a doctor." "Tomorrow," she said. "Right now, I just need to sit still and remember how to breathe." Sophie climbed onto the couch beside her, careful not to jostle the injured foot. "What's your name?" The woman hesitated, just for a second. "Zoe." "My name is Zoe Lewis." I recognized it instantly. Zoe Lewis, CEO of Meridian Technologies. The woman who'd been on the cover of Fortune magazine 3 months ago. The corporate genius who'd taken a failing software company and turned it into a billion-dollar empire. I didn't say anything. Didn't let my face show recognition. Whatever brought her to that alley, whatever made her afraid to call the police, she clearly didn't want to be that person right now. "Nice to meet you, Zoe," I said simply. "You're safe here. Rest as long as you need." She looked at me then, really looked like she was trying to figure out if I meant it. Then she nodded, pulling Sophie's blanket tighter around her shoulders. "Thank you, Seth, she whispered. Outside, the rain continued its assault on Seattle, but inside apartment 4C, something had shifted. A line had been crossed. 3 strangers brought together by chance and violence, and a choice to not look away. And standing there in my small living room with water still dripping from my jacket and my daughter humming softly beside a woman whose world had just collapsed, I had no idea that this moment would become the fault line between the life we'd been living and the one we were about to build. I found dry clothes in the back of my closet, things that belonged to Emma before she got sick. A soft gray sweater and black yoga pants that I'd kept meaning to donate but never did. Some part of me knew they might be needed someday, though I never imagined it would be like this. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Zoe changed in the bathroom while I made tea. Earl Grey, the expensive kind I bought once and saved for occasions that never seemed to arrive. Sophie sat at the kitchen table, swinging her legs and arranging her collection of smooth stones in careful patterns. "Is Zoe going to stay with us?" she asked, not looking up from her rocks. "Just for tonight?" "Probably. Until she feels better." "She seems sad. Like you were after Mama went to the stars." The words landed gently, the way only Sophie could deliver them. She'd been 4 when Emma died. Old enough to understand loss, but young enough to frame it in ways that didn't hurt quite as much. "She's had a hard night, sweetheart. Sometimes people need quiet and warmth and time." Sophie nodded, accepting this. "Can I show her my rock collection? Mama always said pretty things help when you're sad. Maybe tomorrow, when she's rested." Zoe emerged from the bathroom, looking smaller somehow, more human. The designer suit was gone, replaced by Emma's clothes that fit well enough. Her dark hair hung in damp waves past her shoulders, and without the corporate armor, she looked younger, vulnerable. "Thank you," she said, gesturing to the clothes. "I'll wash them and return them. No rush. They're just sitting in a closet anyway." She limped to the couch, favoring the ankle but managing better than before. I handed her the tea, and she wrapped both hands around the mug, breathing in the past steam. "This is going to sound strange," she said quietly, "but I need to ask you not to tell anyone I'm here. Not friends, not family, no one." "All right." She blinked. "Just like that? You're not going to ask why? You'll tell me if you need to. Until then, it's not my business." Something in her expression softened. Most people would have questions. Most people didn't find you in an alley at night. I figure you've got your reasons. Sophie brought her stones over and spread them on the coffee table in front of Zoe. "This one's my favorite. Daddy says it's quartz, but I call it moonpiece because it glows." Zoe picked up the smooth white stone, turning it in her palm. "It's beautiful. Where did you find it?" "At Discovery Beach. Mama and I found it together before she got sick." The room went quiet. Zoe looked at me, a question in her eyes. "My wife passed away 2 years ago," I said. "Cancer. I'm so sorry." The words were automatic, but her voice carried genuine weight. "Me, too." Sophie climbed onto the couch beside Zoe, careful of her ankle. "Do you have a family?" Zoe's smile was sad. "Not really. I have employees and business partners and people who want things from me. But family? No. That's okay," Sophie said matter-of-factly. "You can borrow ours for tonight." I watched Zoe's face crumble and rebuild itself in the span of 3 seconds. She set the tea down carefully, like she didn't trust her hands. "Thank you, Sophie. That's very kind." After Sophie went to bed, I made up the couch with clean sheets and my spare pillow. Zoe sat in the armchair, laptop balanced on her knees, staring at the screen without really seeing it. "You should rest," I said. "That ankle needs time to heal." "I know. I just need to check something first." She typed for a few minutes, her expression growing darker with each passing moment. Finally, she closed the laptop with more force than necessary. "Problem?" I asked. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You could say that. My business partner thinks I stole company funds. He's frozen my accounts, locked me out of the building, and apparently told the board I've had a mental breakdown. Did you steal the money? No. The word was firm. But he did. And I found proof. That's what's on this laptop. She patted the computer, like it was a life preserver. This is the only copy that he doesn't know about. If I lose this, I lose everything. That's why you didn't want the police involved. He has connections, friends in the department, judges who owe him favors. If I walk into a police station right now, I'll be arrested before I can show anyone the evidence. I sat down in the other chair, processing this. So what's your plan? I don't know yet. I was trying to get to my lawyer's office when those men grabbed me. They wanted this. She touched the laptop again. At first I thought they were random muggers, but now I'm not sure. The timing is too convenient. You think your partner sent them? I think Daniel Crane is capable of a lot more than I gave him credit for. And I think I was naive to believe that success and ethics could coexist in the same company. There was a story there, layers of betrayal and broken trust. But I could see the exhaustion pulling at her, dark circles under her eyes, shoulders slumped, the way she kept rubbing her temples. Get some sleep, I said. Tomorrow, you can figure out your next move. Tonight, you're safe here. Why are you helping me? She asked. You don't know me. I could be lying about everything. Could be, but I don't think you are. How do you know? I thought about it, because liars don't cry when a 7-year-old offers them a blanket. And they don't thank someone 6 times for tea. She smiled at that, a real smile that changed her whole face. I've said thank you 6 times? At least. Might be 7 now. She laughed, soft and tired. Thank you. That's 8. I turned off the lamp, leaving only the kitchen light on for navigation. Bathroom's down the hall if you need it. There's water in the fridge. And if you hear someone get up around 6, that's just me. I've got a repair job in the morning. What do you repair? Appliances mostly. Washers, dryers, refrigerators. Whatever breaks, I fix it. That's a good skill to have. It's honest work. Pays enough. Keeps me home for Sophie. She's lucky to have you. I paused at the hallway entrance. I'm the lucky one. She reminds me every day that there's still good things worth protecting. Zoe pulled the blanket up to her chin, her eyes already half closed. Seth, thank you for not walking past me tonight. Get some rest, Zoe. I checked on Sophie before going to my own room. She was sprawled across her bed in the shape of a starfish, Mr. Hatches tucked under one arm. I pulled her covers up and kissed her forehead. In my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the photo on my nightstand. Emma, smiling, holding newborn Sophie. 3 years before the diagnosis. 4 years before the end. I don't know what I'm doing, I whispered to the photo. But she needed help. And you always said that's what we're supposed to do. The photo didn't answer, but I hadn't expected it to. I lay back and stared at the ceiling, listening to the rain finally slow to a gentle patter. Somewhere in my living room, a woman I'd met 3 hours ago was sleeping on my couch with evidence of corporate fraud on her laptop and fear in her eyes. Tomorrow, she'd probably be gone, back to her world of boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. But tonight, she was just Zoe. Someone who needed help. Someone who'd been kind to my daughter and honest about being lost. And somehow, in helping her, I'd felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Purpose. The sense that maybe I wasn't done being useful yet. That maybe there was still room in this small life for something bigger than routine and survival. I fell asleep to the sound of rain and the quiet knowledge that nothing would be quite the same after this. The morning came soft and gray. Seattle's typical autumn light filtering through the curtains like a whisper. I woke at 5:30 out of habit, made coffee in the old percolator that sounded like a small engine, and started breakfast before I remembered I had a guest. Zoe was still asleep on the couch, curled on her side, one arm draped over the laptop like even in sleep she couldn't let it go. The bruising on her ankle had bloomed into deep purple and yellow, angry but survivable. I moved quietly, pulling out eggs and bread, butter from the fridge. The refrigerator door squeaked, a sound I'd been meaning to fix for 6 months, and Zoe stirred. "Sorry," I said. "Didn't mean to wake you." She sat up slowly, wincing as she adjusted her position. "What time is it?" "Just past 6. I've got a repair job at 7:30. But there's no rush. Take your time." She rubbed her eyes, looking around the apartment like she needed to remember where she was. "I should go. I've already imposed too much. On that ankle, you're not going anywhere for at least a day or 2. I can't just stay here." "Why not? You got somewhere better to be?" She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. We both knew the answer. "At least have breakfast," I said. "Then we'll figure out the rest." She limped to the kitchen table, moving better than last night but still favoring the injury. I scrambled eggs with cheese the way Emma used to make them, crispy at the edges, soft in the middle, toast with butter. Nothing fancy, but it was warm and real. Sophie emerged from her room in dinosaur pajamas, hair pointing in 17 directions, carrying Mr. Patches and a drawing she'd apparently been working on. "Morning, sleepyhead," I said. She climbed into her chair and studied Zoe with that serious, evaluating expression. "Your ankle looks like the sunset, purple and yellow and orange." Zoe glanced down. "I suppose it does. Does it hurt a lot?" "A bit, but I've had worse." Sophie nodded like this was acceptable. "Daddy's really good at fixing hurt things. He fixed my knee when I fell off the swings, and he fixed Mr. Patches when his trunk came loose." She held up the stuffed elephant to demonstrate his securely attached trunk. "Your daddy seems good at fixing all kinds of things," Zoe said, glancing at me. I set plates in front of them both. "Eat before it gets cold." We ate in comfortable silence, the kind that happens when people are too tired or too hungry to maintain conversation. Sophie finished first and presented her drawing to Zoe. "I made this for you. It's you and me and Daddy at Discovery Beach. See? That's the ocean. And those are the rocks. And that's Mr. Patches, because he likes adventures." The drawing showed 3 stick figures and 1 elephant on a shore, dotted with stones. The sky was filled with stars, even though it was clearly daytime. "The stars are there because Mama lives in them," Sophie explained. "So she can be in every picture." Zoe held the paper with both hands, studying it like it was a masterpiece. "This is the most beautiful thing anyone's given me in a very long time. You can keep it. I make lots of pictures." After Sophie went to brush her teeth, Zoe helped me clear the table. She moved carefully, testing the ankle, learning its limits. "You don't have to do that," I said. "You're injured. I need to do something. I'm not good at sitting still." We worked side by side. Me washing, her drying with a dish towel that had seen better days. The domestic rhythm felt strange and natural at the same time. "Can I ask you something?" she said after a while. "Sure." "Sophie said you used to save people. What did you do?" "Before this?" I rinsed a plate carefully. "I was a paramedic. Worked with the fire department for 8 years. Why'd you stop?" "There was a call. House fire. We got there fast, got the parents out, but there was a little boy still inside. I went back in." I paused, the memory playing in my head like worn footage. "I found him. Got him out. But the smoke damage was too severe. He died 3 days later in the hospital. That wasn't your fault." "Maybe not. But I kept thinking about all the calls where I did everything right and people still died. All the times I came home and couldn't shake the weight of it. Emma was pregnant with Sophie, and I realized I couldn't be the father she needed if I was always carrying that darkness. I set the last plate in the rack. So I quit, took classes in appliance repair. Started fixing machines instead of people. Machines don't die when you can't save them. Zoe was quiet for a pertimance. 2.com. Zoe was quiet for a pertiman moment. Do you regret it? Sometimes. But then I see Sophie, and I know I made the right choice. She got a father who's present, who doesn't wake up at 3 in the morning seeing faces he couldn't save. Until last night, I looked at her. Last night was different. Last night was a choice, not an obligation. She nodded slowly, understanding something unspoken. Thank you for making that choice. Sophie reappeared, now dressed in jeans and a shirt with a cartoon octopus. Daddy, can Zoe come to school pick up with us today? I want to show my friend Hannah that we have a visitor. Zoe might need to rest today, sweetheart. Actually, Zoe said, if you don't mind, I'd like to come. I've been stuck in boardrooms and conference calls for so long. I think a school pickup sounds perfect, Sophie beamed. Okay, but we have to leave at 3:15 exactly because Mrs. Patterson doesn't like it when parents are late. The morning settled into routine. I left for my repair job, a broken washing machine in Pinehurst Heights, and returned by early afternoon. Zoe had spent the time working on her laptop, drinking the coffee I'd left, and apparently teaching herself how to braid hair using tutorial videos. When I walked in, she was sitting on the couch with Sophie, practicing French braids on her daughter's hair. Look, Daddy, Zoe's making me fancy. I see that. Looks good. Zoe's hands were steady, methodical, weaving Sophie's hair with surprising skill. I never had anyone to practice on. This is harder than hostile takeovers. We left for school pickup at 3 to 10, Sophie holding both our hands as we walked. The rain had cleared, leaving everything bright and washed clean. Zoe moved slowly but steadily, the ankle holding up better than expected. At Brookside Elementary, parents clustered near the entrance, chatting while they waited. A few glanced at us, curious about the unfamiliar woman with the limp, but no one asked questions. Sophie spotted her friend Hannah immediately and dragged us over. Hannah, this is Zoe. She's staying with us because she got hurt and Daddy rescued her. Hannah, a gap-toothed girl with red hair, looked impressed. Cool. My dad once saved a cat from a tree. That's very brave, Zoe said seriously. Cats can be dangerous. The two girls launched into an animated discussion about the relative danger of various animals, and I found myself standing beside Zoe, watching our breath make small clouds in the cool air. This is nice, she said quietly. Normal. I forgot what normal felt like. It's overrated until you don't have it anymore. Exactly. On the walk home, Sophie chattered about her day, about the substitute teacher who let them have extra recess, about the boy who brought a lizard for show and tell. Zoe listened to every word like it mattered, asking questions, laughing at the right moments. Back at the apartment, I made spaghetti while Zoe and Sophie set the table. We ate together, the three of us crowded around the small kitchen table, and for a little while, it was easy to forget that this wasn't permanent, that Zoe had a life waiting for her somewhere, full of complications and danger and decisions I couldn't help her with. After dinner, while Sophie watched cartoons, Zoe and I sat on the balcony. It was small, barely room for 2 chairs, but it overlooked the street and caught the last light of the day. I need to make a decision, she said. I can't hide here forever. No, but you can hide here until you're ready. She smiled. You're very patient with me. You're very easy to be patient with. Daniel will be looking for me. Once he realizes I'm not coming back to negotiate, he'll escalate. What are your options? Go to the media, go to the police, or go directly to the board with the evidence. All risky. All potentially disastrous. What does your gut say? She looked surprised. My gut? Yeah. Not your business brain, not your legal strategy. What does your gut tell you? She was quiet for a long time, watching the streetlights flicker on. That I'm tired of fighting alone. That I've spent 10 years building something I thought mattered. And somewhere along the way I forgot why it mattered. That maybe losing everything wouldn't be the worst thing if it meant getting myself back. That's a good gut. She laughed, soft and tired. Is it? Best kind, the one that's honest. We sat in comfortable silence as the evening deepened. Inside, I could hear Sophie singing along to her cartoons, off-key and enthusiastic. She's wonderful, Zoe said. You've raised an incredible person. I'm just trying not to mess it up too badly. You're doing better than just not messing up. She's confident and kind and curious. That doesn't happen by accident. Emma deserves the credit. She set the foundation before she left. And you built on it. Don't sell yourself short, Seth. Something in the way she said my name made me look at her. Really look. She was staring out, at the street, but I could see the profile of her face in the fading light. Strong and soft at the same time. Exhausted but determined. We should get you back inside, I said. That ankle needs rest. In a minute, I just want to sit here a little longer and pretend the world isn't waiting. So, we did. We sat on that small balcony, while the city hummed below us, and Sophie sang inside and the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. And for the first time since Emma died, I felt something shift inside me, not healing exactly, more like the recognition that healing was possible, that maybe I'd been living in a smaller version of life than I needed to, that there was room for more than just routine and survival. I didn't know what would happen tomorrow. Didn't know if Zoe would stay or go, if her problems would become ours, if this fragile peace would last beyond tonight. But I knew that for right now, in this moment, 3 people who'd been strangers 3 days ago had become something else. Something that felt like the beginning of a family, even if none of us were ready to say it out loud yet. By Thursday morning, Zoe had been with us for 5 days. The ankle was healing, the bruises fading to green and yellow, and she'd stopped apologizing every time she existed in our space. Sophie had decided that Zoe needed to learn important life skills, which apparently meant teaching her how to make pancakes without burning them, and explaining the complex social hierarchy of 2nd grade. Hannah sits with me at lunch because we both like purple, Sophie explained while mixing batter. But Madison thinks purple is babyish, so she sits with the girls who like pink. That sounds complicated, Zoe said, whisking with determination. It is. You have to know who likes what, or you'll sit at the wrong table. I watched them from the doorway, coffee in hand, trying not to smile. Zoe had thrown on one of my old flannel shirts over her borrowed clothes, sleeves rolled up, hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked nothing like the woman from the magazine covers. How's the batter? I asked. Lumpy, Zoe said. Is it supposed to be lumpy? Little lumps are good. Means you didn't overmix. Sophie peered into the bowl with scientific interest. I think it needs more milk. When it's too thick, the pancakes taste like sponges. How do you know what sponges taste like? Zoe asked. I don't, but I imagine they taste like thick pancakes. Zoe laughed, the sound filling the kitchen in a way that made the space feel bigger. That's very logical. The first pancake went into the pan with a satisfying sizzle. Sophie stood on her step stool, monitoring it like a tiny supervisor. Wait for the bubbles, she instructed. You have to be patient. I'm not very good at patient, Zoe admitted. Daddy says that's okay. He says some people are like microwaves and some people are like ovens. Both cook food, just different speeds. I choked on my coffee. Did I say that? Last week, when I was upset about my math homework taking forever. Zoe glanced at me, eyes bright with amusement. So which one are you? Apparently I'm an oven. I think I'm a microwave that wants to be an oven, Zoe said thoughtfully. That's called growth, I said. Flip that pancake before it burns. She flipped it, slightly too early, the underside pale but acceptable. The second attempt was better. By the 5th pancake, she'd found her rhythm. We ate at the table, syrup flowing freely, Sophie narrating the entire meal like a food critic. This one's a 7 out of 10, Better than last time, but not as good as Daddy's. This one though. She held up a perfectly golden pancake. This one's a 9. You're getting good, Zoe. High praise, I said. I'm very serious about pancakes, Sophie replied. After breakfast, I had 3 repair jobs scheduled. Normally, I'd drop Sophie at the community center's after-school program, but she had the day off for teacher conferences. I can watch her, Zoe offered. If you trust me, Sophie gasped. Can we do art projects? And maybe bake cookies? Zoe hasn't learned cookies yet. I looked at Zoe, saw the hope and nervousness mixed together. You sure? She's a handful when she's in project mode. I think I can handle hostile board meetings and mergers. A creative 7-year-old should be manageable. Famous last words. I muttered, but I was smiling. I left them with art supplies spread across the living room floor and a vague plan involving sugar cookies and glitter. When I returned 4 hours later, the apartment looked like a craft store had exploded. Sophie was covered in paint, wearing a crown made of paper flowers. Zoe had glitter in her hair and frosting on her cheek, looking exhausted and happier than I'd seen her. We made 17 cookies, Sophie announced, and a castle, and a garden, and Zoe taught me how to make a budget spreadsheet for my allowance. A budget spreadsheet? Zoe shrugged, sheepish. She asked how I got good at math. One thing led to another. She says if I save $3 a week, I can buy the big art set at Morrison's in 4 months. That's good planning, I said, surveying the chaos. Though we might need to budget for cleaning supplies. We spent the evening cleaning up, the 3 of us working together with music playing from my phone. Sophie danced while she picked up markers. Zoe sang along to songs she claimed not to know, then hit every word perfectly. At bedtime, Sophie asked if Zoe would read to her. They curled up together on Sophie's bed while I did dishes, and I could hear Zoe's voice carrying through the apartment, animated and warm, bringing the story to life. When she emerged 20 minutes later, her eyes were wet. She fell asleep holding my hand. Zoe whispered. I didn't want to move and wake her. She does that. Holds on like you might disappear. Does she do that with everyone? No. Just people she trusts. Zoe sank onto the couch, something vulnerable in her expression. I don't want to let her down. Then don't. It's not that simple. My life is complicated, Seth. When I leave here, there's going to be fallout. Legal battles, media scrutiny, people picking sides. I don't want any of that touching her. So don't leave. She looked at me, startled. What? I'm not saying stay forever. I'm saying maybe you don't have to figure everything out on a timeline. Maybe you can take the time you need to heal and plan and be ready. You'd let me stay, even knowing the trouble I might bring? Trouble finds people whether they invite it or not. At least this way, you're not facing it alone. She was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then she smiled, small but genuine. Thank you, Seth. For the 10th or 20th time, thank you. Lost count after 8. She laughed. The sound soft in the dim room. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. But inside, something had settled. A decision made, without being spoken. An understanding that this temporary arrangement might be more permanent than either of us planned. I should warn you, Zoe said. I'm terrible at cleaning, and I sing off-key, and I've never successfully kept a plant alive. Sophie sings off-key too. You'll harmonize terribly together. What about you? What are your flaws? I fix things that aren't broken because I don't know how to sit still. I make terrible coffee, and I'm overprotective of the people I care about. That last one doesn't sound like a flaw. It is when it means I forget to let people take care of themselves. She reached over and squeezed my hand, brief but intentional. I think we'll figure it out. Yeah, I said. I think we will. The knock came on Saturday morning, sharp and official. 3 hard raps that made my stomach drop before I even reached the door. Through the peephole, I saw a man in an expensive suit, perfectly tailored, holding a tablet. Behind him, a black sedan idled at the curb. I opened the door just wide enough to fill the frame. "Can I help you?" Seth Newman. His smile was professional and empty. "My name is Marcus Chen. I'm an attorney representing Meridian Technologies. I'm looking for Zoe Lewis. Don't know anyone by that name." "Mr. Newman, I understand you're trying to protect her, but this is a legal matter. Miss Lewis has documents that belong to the company. We just need to speak with her. Like I said, don't know her." His smile tightened. "We have security footage showing her in this neighborhood 6 days ago. We know she's here." "Then you know more than me." Behind me, I heard Zoe's voice, quiet but steady. "It's okay, Seth. I'll talk to him." She appeared beside me, wearing jeans and a sweater, hair pulled back, looking more like a graduate student than a CEO. The lawyer's expression shifted to something between relief and calculation. "Miss Lewis. Thank goodness. Mr. Crane has been worried sick." "I doubt that," Zoe said. "What does he want?" "To resolve this situation amicably. He's prepared to meet with you, discuss the allegations, find a solution that works for everyone. The solution is simple. He admits to the fraud and resigns. Those are serious accusations, without proper evidence. I have evidence. Financial records, emails, recorded conversations, everything needed to prove he's been embezzling for 18 months. The lawyer's smile never wavered. "Then bring it to the board. Present your case properly. But hiding and making accusations through intermediaries only damages your credibility." "Is that what he told you? That I'm hiding? Aren't you?" Zoe stepped forward, and I felt the shift in her energy. The CEO returning, the woman who'd built an empire remembering how to command a room. "I'm not hiding, I'm strategizing. There's a difference. Tell Daniel I'll present my evidence to the board, but on my terms and timeline, not his. He's given you until Monday. If you don't return the company property and meet with him by then, he'll have no choice but to pursue legal action." "Company property?" Zoe's laugh was sharp. "You mean the evidence of his crimes? Tell him he can try, but I'd advise him to retain better legal counsel first." The lawyer's professional mask cracked slightly. "Miss Lewis, I urge you to reconsider. This path you're on will destroy your reputation, your career, everything you've built. My reputation was built on innovation and integrity. If it can't survive the truth, it wasn't worth having." She closed the door before he could respond. Her hand shook slightly as she turned the lock. Sophie appeared in the hallway, clutching Mr. Patches. "Who was that man? He seemed mean." "Just someone from my old job, sweetie," Zoe said, her voice immediately softening. "Nothing to worry about." But we both knew that wasn't true. After Sophie went to play in her room, Zoe paced the living room like a caged animal, energy crackling off her in waves. "They found me faster than I expected," she said. "Daniel must have traced my phone before I ditched it, or tracked my credit cards. What do you want to do?" "I don't know. Fight? Probably. It's what I'm good at." She paused at the window, looking out at the street. "But I'm tired, Seth. I'm so tired of fighting." "Then don't. At least, not today." "It's not that simple." "It is, if you let it be." She turned to face me, frustration and fear mixing in her expression. "You don't understand. These people don't stop. Daniel has resources, connections, lawyers who make 6 figures to destroy people like me. If I don't act fast, he'll bury me. So act, but act smart, not desperate." "What's the difference?" "Desperate is reacting to his timeline, his pressure, his rules. Smart is choosing your moment, building your case, making sure when you move, it counts." She sank onto the couch, hands over her face. "I keep thinking about what he said, that this will destroy everything I built. What if he's right? Then you build something better. Just like that. Just like that." She looked up at me, something breaking in her expression. How are you so calm about this? Because I've already lost everything once. I know what's on the other side. It's not the end you think it is. The words hung between us, honest and raw. She nodded slowly, understanding, settling in. I need to call my lawyer, start putting together a proper strategy. Use my phone, yours, is probably compromised. She made the call from the kitchen, voice low and focused. I heard fragments of legal terminology, dates, documentation requirements. When she returned 30 minutes later, she looked exhausted but determined. My lawyer thinks we have a strong case, but he wants me to come to his office Monday, go through everything, prepare for the board meeting. Then that's what we'll do. We? You think I'm letting you walk into that alone? Something softened in her face. You don't have to do this. I know, I want to. Sophie called from her room, needing help with a puzzle. Zoe went to her without hesitation, and I heard them laughing together, the sound pushing back against the tension trying to fill our space. Outside, the black sedan still sat at the curb, watching, waiting, a reminder that the world Zoe came from wasn't done with her yet. But inside these walls, we had something they couldn't take. We had each other, and for now, that would have to be enough. Sunday morning brought a different knock. Softer, almost apologetic. When I opened the door, a woman stood there in designer clothes and perfectly styled hair, holding a leather folder. I'm looking for Zoe Lewis, she said. My name is Patricia Morrison. I'm on the board at Meridian. I studied her, looking for threat or deception, but found only exhaustion and concern. Wait here, I said. Zoe came to the door, and her face registered surprise. Patricia? May I come in? Please. I'm not here on Daniel's behalf. We let her enter. She took in the modest apartment with a glance that held no judgment, just curiosity. Sophie peeked out from her room, and Patricia smiled warmly at her before turning back to Zoe. I've been trying to reach you for days. When Daniel said you'd stolen money and disappeared, I knew something was wrong. That's not who you are. Zoe's shoulders relaxed slightly. Thank you for that. I did some digging, quietly, and I found some concerning patterns in our financials that match what you claimed. She handed Zoe the folder. This is preliminary, but it supports your version of events. Zoe opened it, scanning the documents with growing intensity. This is exactly what I needed. Evidence from inside the company. There's more, Patricia said carefully. The board wants to resolve this. They're prepared to offer you a deal. What kind of deal? Full reinstatement. CEO position restored, with a raise and expanded authority. Daniel will be removed, investigated, and prosecuted if warranted. They'll issue a public statement clearing your name completely. The words filled the room like pressure changing before a storm. Zoe stood perfectly still, processing. What's the catch? She asked. No catch. They want you back. The company has been in chaos without you. Stock prices are falling. Clients are nervous. You're the face of Meridian, Zoe. Without you, there's no company. Sophie appeared in the doorway. Does this mean you have to leave? Patricia looked between them, understanding dawning in her expression. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were staying with family. They're not family, Zoe said quietly. They're better than that. I put a hand on Sophie's shoulder. Let's give them some space. Kiddo, we can make lunch. In the kitchen, Sophie was uncharacteristically quiet, arranging sandwich ingredients with unusual precision. Is Zoe going away? She finally asked. I don't know, sweetheart. That's her choice to make. But I don't want her to go. She's teaching me about spreadsheets, and she promised we'd make cookies again. I know, but sometimes people have jobs and responsibilities that take them places. Like Mama? When she went to the stars? The question hit harder than it should have. No, baby. Not like that. Zoe wouldn't be gone forever. Just busy. That's still sad. Yeah, I agreed. It is. In the living room, voices rose and fell. Patricia stayed for nearly an hour before leaving, folder in hand, promising to give Zoe time to think. When Zoe came into the kitchen, her face was unreadable. "They want me back," she said unnecessarily. I gathered. Everything I thought I lost. They're offering it back. Plus more. That's good, right? She sat at the table, and Sophie immediately climbed into her lap, wrapping small arms around her neck. "I don't know," Zoe whispered. "A week ago, it's all I wanted. To clear my name, reclaim my position, prove I was right. But now..." "Now what?" Sophie asked. "Now I'm not sure that's what I want anymore." "Then don't do it," Sophie said, with the simple logic of 7-year-olds. "Do something else instead. It's more complicated than that, sweetie." "Why?" Zoe laughed, tired but genuine. "That's an excellent question." After Sophie went to watch cartoons, Zoe and I sat at the table with cooling coffee between us. "Talk to me," I said. "If I go back, everything returns to how it was. The pressure, the expectations, the constant performance. 14-hour days, sleeping at the office, missing life because I'm too busy managing it. But you'd win. You'd prove you were right." "Would I? Or would I just prove I can survive in a system that almost destroyed me? What's the alternative? What's the alternative? Oh, what's the alternative?" She was quiet for a long time. "I don't know. That's what scares me. I've spent 15 years building toward this position. If I walk away, who am I? What do I do? You figure it out. Same way everyone else does. One day at a time. You make it sound easy. It's not easy. It's just possible." She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the weight of the decision in her eyes. Success or authenticity, power or peace. Everything she'd worked for or everything she'd just discovered. "What would you do?" she asked. "Doesn't matter what I'd do. This is your life, Zoe. But if it were you?" I thought about Emma, about the job I'd left, about the choice between who I was and who I needed to be. I'd choose the people who make me feel like myself. The rest you can rebuild. But people who see you, really see you, those are rare, worth protecting. She reached across the table and took my hand. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not telling me what to do. For letting me figure it out. You'll make the right choice." "How do you know?" "Because you're asking the right questions." She smiled, and some of the tension left her shoulders. She still had to decide, still had to choose between the life she knew and the one she was building. But for now, she was here. And that was enough. Monday morning, Zoe made her decision. She called Patricia and declined the offer. Then she called her lawyer and told him to prepare for war. "I'm not going back as CEO," she told me while packing her laptop. "But I'm not letting Daniel win either. I'm going to expose him, testify if needed, and then walk away clean." Sounds like a solid plan. There's one problem. I can't stay here while this plays out. The media will find me eventually. And when they do, they'll descend on this building like locusts. I won't do that to you and Sophie. Sophie looked up from her cereal. "Where will you go?" "I don't know yet. A hotel. Maybe. Somewhere anonymous." "That sounds lonely," Sophie said. "It does," Zoe admitted, "but it's safer for everyone." I thought about it while washing dishes, the plan forming without my permission. My brother has a cabin, 2 hours north, near Cascade Lake. It's quiet, off the grid, no neighbors for miles. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. What about your repair jobs? I'll reschedule. This is more important. Zoe looked at Sophie, then back at me. Both of you would come? Of course, Sophie said. You need company and protection. Daddy's really good at protection. We packed quickly. Clothes, food, Sophie's art supplies, Zoe's laptop and files. By noon, we were in my truck heading north on Highway 20, leaving Seattle in the rearview mirror. Sophie fell asleep in the back seat, Mr. Patches clutched tight. Zoe stared out the window, watching the city give way to forest. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For this. For everything. Stop thanking me. We're past that." "Are we?" "Yeah, we're family now. Family doesn't keep score." She smiled, something breaking loose in her expression. "Family. I like that." The cabin appeared, after a winding gravel road. A small wooden structure with a stone chimney and wide windows facing the lake. Simple but solid. The kind of place that existed outside of time. We unloaded in silence, the forest sounds surrounding us. No traffic, no sirens, no city noise, just wind through trees and water lapping against the shore. Sophie woke up and immediately declared the cabin magical. She found a frog by the water's edge, and named him Gerald, insisting we visit him every day. That first night, we cooked dinner together in the tiny kitchen. Pasta with vegetables, garlic bread, nothing fancy. We ate on the porch while the sun set over the lake, painting everything gold and pink. "I forgot what quiet sounds like," Zoe said. "Real quiet, not just the absence of noise." "It takes getting used to," I said. "But once you do, the city seems too loud." "Do you miss it?" "The city. Sometimes. But this," I gestured at Sophie chasing fireflies, at the lake reflecting stars. "This is better." Later, after Sophie went to bed in the loft, Zoe and I sat by the fire. The flames cast moving shadows, and the cabin settled around us with creaks and sighs. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Of what happens when I go back. Of losing this." "You won't lose it. It's not going anywhere." "How do you know?" "Because we won't let it go." She leaned against my shoulder, and I wrapped an arm around her. Outside, an owl called. Inside, the fire burned steady. And for the first time in years, I felt something I'd forgotten existed. Hope. Not the desperate kind that clings to possibility, but the quiet kind that simply believes tomorrow might be better than today. The days at the cabin developed their own rhythm. Mornings meant coffee on the porch, watching mist rise off the lake. Afternoons were for hiking, exploring, teaching Sophie to skip stones. Evenings brought card games and stories and the kind of laughter that comes from nowhere and everywhere at once. On the fourth day, Zoe's ankle was strong enough for a real hike. We took the trail that circled the lake, Sophie leading the way with a walking stick she'd found. Halfway around, we stopped at a clearing overlooking the water. Sophie went to investigate interesting rocks, leaving Zoe and me sitting on a fallen log. "Can I ask you something?" Zoe said. "Always." "How did you survive it? Losing your wife?" The question hung between us. Honest and raw. I watched Sophie balance on a rock, arms spread like wings. "I didn't, at first. For about 6 months after Emma died, I was just going through motions, getting Sophie to school, doing repair jobs, keeping us fed and clothed. But not really living." "What changed?" Sophie did. One day, she asked me if I was sad because I didn't love her enough to be happy. Broke my heart clean in half. Made me realize I'd been so focused on grief that I forgot about the person who was still here, still needing me. Zoe was quiet, absorbing this. "Do you still miss her?" "Every day. But it's different now. Less like drowning, more like carrying something heavy that I've learned how to hold." "I've never lost someone like that," Zoe said. "But I lost myself somewhere in the last decade. Traded pieces of who I was for success until I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back." "What did you trade?" "Time, relationships, honesty. I told myself it was temporary, that once I reached a certain level I could relax, be myself again. But there was always another level, another goal, another reason to keep performing." "And now?" She looked at Sophie, then at the lake, then at me. Now I know what I gave up. And I'm terrified I can't get it back. You already are getting it back, right here. This isn't real life, Seth. This is a vacation from reality. Maybe reality needs more vacations. She laughed, but her eyes were wet. You make everything sound so simple. It is simple. Not easy, but simple. Figure out what matters, protect it, let go of the rest. What matters to you? Sophie. Making sure she grows up knowing she's loved and safe. Beyond that, I shrugged. Fixing things. Being useful. Not hurting people when I can avoid it. That's it. That's everything. She wiped her eyes, smiling through tears. I spent 15 years chasing billions of dollars and market dominance. You're telling me happiness was just being useful and not hurting people. I'm saying happiness is knowing yourself well enough to want what you actually want, not what you think you should want. Sophie came running back, pockets full of rocks. Look, this one has sparkles, and this one's shaped like a heart. We admired her collection with appropriate reverence and then continued the hike. But something had shifted. Zoe walked lighter, like she'd set down a weight she didn't know she was carrying. That night, while Sophie slept, we sat by the fire again. Zoe had her laptop open, working on her testimony for the board. I'm going to recommend they promote someone from within, she said. Not hire from outside. The company needs someone who understands its values, not just its profit margins. That's generous. After everything they put you through. It's not about them. It's about building something that lasts beyond me. Something real. What will you do after? End of Common. End of Cobb. End of Common. I don't know. Maybe consulting. Maybe teaching. Maybe something completely different. She closed the laptop. Is it crazy that I'm excited about not knowing? Not crazy. Brave. She moved closer, resting her head on my shoulder, like she'd done a dozen times before. But this time felt different. Intentional. Like a question and an answer at the same time. Seth. Yeah. Thank you for showing me there's more than one way to matter. I kissed the top of her head, gentle and easy. You always mattered, Zoe. You just forgot for a while. We stayed like that until the fire burned low. Two people learning how to be whole again, one quiet moment at a time. We returned to Seattle on a gray Thursday morning. Zoe wore a navy suit, hair pulled back, looking every bit the CEO she used to be. But her eyes were different now. Calmer. Certain. The board meeting was scheduled for 2 o'clock at Meridian's headquarters in the Columbia Tower. I dropped Sophie with my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who'd agreed to watch her for the afternoon. You'll be there? Zoe asked as we drove downtown. Right. Outside the room. You need me. I'm there in 5 seconds. I know. She squeezed my hand. That's the only reason I can do this. The Meridian offices occupied the entire 42nd floor. Glass and steel and the kind of aggressive minimalism that screamed money. Patricia met us in the lobby, looking relieved. The board is ready. Daniel doesn't know you're coming. We thought the element of surprise might help. Good, Zoe said. Let's keep it that way. I waited in the hallway while Zoe entered the boardroom. Through the glass walls, I could see Daniel Crane at the head of the table, looking confident and comfortable. That changed the moment Zoe walked in. His face went through shock, anger, and calculation in 3 seconds flat. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language. Daniel standing, gesturing aggressively. Zoe remaining seated, calm, methodical. She opened her laptop. The wall screens lit up with spreadsheets, emails, financial records. Patricia and 2 other board members leaned forward, studying the evidence. Daniel's face went red, then pale. 30 minutes in, building security appeared at his side. He argued, then shouted, then finally left with them flanking him like sentries. Zoe never raised her voice, never lost composure. She simply presented the truth and let it do the work. When she emerged an hour later, she looked exhausted but lighter. "It's done," she said. "Daniel's been removed, assets frozen, and they're filing criminal charges. The company is safe. And you?" "They offered me CEO again. I declined, recommended Sandra Kim from operations instead. She's brilliant and actually wants the job." "How do you feel?" "Free." She laughed, the sound echoing in the empty hallway. "Completely, absolutely free." We took the elevator down in silence. In the lobby, a few employees recognized her, looking curious and concerned. She smiled at them but didn't stop. Outside, the rain had started again, that familiar Seattle drizzle. Zoe tilted her face up to it, eyes closed, breathing deep. "What now?" I asked. "Now we go home, make dinner, listen to Sophie talk about her day. Be ordinary." "Ordinary sounds good." We drove back through afternoon traffic, Zoe's hand in mine, the city flowing past like a river we'd finally learned to navigate. At Mrs. Chen's apartment, Sophie launched herself at Zoe with a shriek of joy. "You're back. Did you win?" "I did, sweetheart. I won." "Good. Because Gerald the Frog misses you. We should visit him this weekend." Zoe looked at me, eyebrows raised. Gerald the Frog. Long story. Involves the cabin and Sophie's naming conventions. That night, we made spaghetti and played cards, and Sophie beat us both at Go Fish by cheating in the most obvious ways possible. When bedtime came, Sophie insisted Zoe read the story. Later, after Sophie was asleep, Zoe found me on the balcony. "I meant what I said about being free. I know, but I'm also terrified. I've never been without a plan before. Plans are overrated. Wings work better." She smiled, stepping closer. "Is there room in this ordinary life for one more?" "There's always been room. You just had to find it." She kissed me then, soft and sure, and it felt like every good decision I'd ever made leading to this moment. When we pulled apart, she was smiling. "So what does ordinary look like tomorrow?" "Probably fixing Mrs. Patterson's dryer, maybe teaching Sophie fractions, definitely more terrible coffee." "Sounds perfect." And it was. 3 months later, spring arrived with cherry blossoms and longer days. Zoe had settled into our life like she'd always been there. She started consulting for nonprofits, teaching business strategy to organizations that actually helped people. The money was a fraction of what she used to make, but she came home smiling instead of exhausted. Sophie's science project won second place at the district fair. Zoe had helped her build a model showing how water filtration worked. They'd spent weeks on it, laughing over mistakes, celebrating small victories. We planted a garden in the community plot behind our building. Tomatoes, basil, flowers Sophie chose because they were purple. Zoe turned out to have a talent for gardening, nurturing things with patience she never knew she had. On a Saturday in May, we took Sophie to Discovery Beach. She ran ahead, searching for moon pieces, while Zoe and I walked the shoreline. "I got an offer yesterday," Zoe said. "A university wants me to teach a business ethics course." "That's amazing. Are you going to take it?" "I think so. It feels right. Teaching people to build companies without losing themselves in the process." Emma would have loved that. She always said the world needed more ethical billionaires. "I'm not a billionaire anymore." "No, you're something better. You're happy." She smiled, pulling me closer. "I am. For the first time in 15 years, I actually am." Sophie came running back, hands full of rocks. "Look, I found 3 moon pieces. One for each of us." She distributed them solemnly, placing one in each of our palms. The stones were smooth and white, catching the light like promises. "Now we're connected," Sophie announced. "Because we all have pieces of the same moon." That evening, we sat on our balcony, watching the city lights flicker on. Sophie was asleep on the couch, exhausted from the beach. Zoe leaned against me, the moon piece in her pocket, a smile on her face. "Thank you," she said, "for rescuing me that night." I think we rescued each other. Fair point. Below us, Seattle hummed with its endless energy, cars and people, and 1,000 stories unfolding simultaneously. But up here, in our small corner of the world, we'd found something rare. A family built not from blood but from choice, from showing up when it mattered, from believing that people deserved second chances and soft landings and love without conditions. "What are you thinking about?" Zoe asked. "That I spent 2 years trying to fix things that were already broken. And then you showed up. And I remembered that some things are worth building from scratch. Like us? Exactly like us." She kissed me, soft and sure, the city spreading out below us like a map of possibilities. When we pulled apart, she was smiling that smile I'd come to know. The real one, not the corporate mask. Just Zoe, being herself, being home. Inside, Sophie stirred and called out. We went to her together, tucking her in, promising stories tomorrow. She grabbed both our hands, holding on tight. "Love you," she mumbled, already half asleep. "Love you too, sweetheart," I said. "Love you, Sophie," Zoe whispered. And there, in that small moment, everything aligned. The past had shaped us, but it didn't own us anymore. The future was uncertain, but we'd face it together. And the present, this exact moment, was enough. We'd started with a scream in an alley and a choice to not walk away. Now we had breakfast routines, and inside jokes, and a garden growing in community soil. We had Sophie's laughter, and Zoe's terrible singing, and my mediocre coffee. We had ordinary days that felt like miracles, simply because we'd almost missed them entirely. And we had each other. 3 people who'd been strangers, now bound by something stronger than blood or obligation. Bound by choice, by healing, by the quiet decision to keep showing up for each other no matter what came next. Outside, spring turned toward summer. The tomatoes grew taller. Sophie's drawings filled more walls. Zoe's smile came easier with each passing day. And in that small apartment in Seattle, a family that nobody planned became exactly what everyone needed. Not perfect, not dramatic, just real. And that, it turned out, was everything. 18 months later, I stood in the backyard of a house I never thought I'd own, watching Sophie teach Zoe how to throw a curveball. The yard wasn't big, but it was ours. 3 bedrooms, a kitchen that actually fit all of us, and windows that caught morning light. "You have to snap your wrist," Sophie instructed, demonstrating with exaggerated motion. "Like this. See?" Zoe tried, the ball wobbling through the air in a path that was definitely not a curve. "I think I'm better with spreadsheets than sports." "That's okay. Daddy can't do spreadsheets, so you balance out." I laughed from my spot at the grill, flipping burgers that were only slightly burned. "I can do basic math. Thank you very much." "Adding and subtracting don't count," Sophie called back. "Real spreadsheets have formulas." The doorbell rang, and I heard voices in the house. Patricia arrived with her husband, carrying a pie. My brother Tom showed up with his kids, who immediately challenged Sophie to a race around the yard. Mrs. Chen from our old building brought homemade dumplings, refusing to let anyone thank her. Our first real housewarming party. The kind of gathering that felt both overwhelming and exactly right. Zoe appeared at my side, stealing a piece of tomato from the cutting board. She wore jeans and a faded university t-shirt from the ethics course she now taught 3 times a week. Her hair was shorter, her face more relaxed, the permanent tension finally gone from her shoulders. "How many people did we invite?" she asked. 12. But you know how these things go. I really don't. I've never done this before. Neither have I. We'll figure it out together. She kissed my cheek, then grabbed the plate of finished burgers. "Sophie, food's ready." Everyone gathered around the picnic table we'd bought at a yard sale and refinished together. Mismatched chairs, paper plates, nothing fancy. But the laughter was real, the conversation easy, the sense of belonging solid. Patricia cornered Zoe after dinner, asking about her consulting work. Zoe had built a small practice helping startups develop ethical business models, making enough to contribute but not enough to stress about. She seemed happier talking about her 3 current clients than she ever had discussing billion-dollar mergers. Sophie dragged me to see the garden, now overflowing with vegetables we actually ate. She'd started a small business selling tomatoes and herbs to neighbors, saving money for art camp next summer. The budget spreadsheet Zoe helped her create hung on the fridge, meticulously updated every week. "Daddy," Sophie said, pulling a ripe tomato from the vine, "are you and Zoe going to get married?" The question landed casually, like she was asking about the weather. "Would you want that?" I asked. "Obviously. She's already family. A wedding just makes it official." She handed me the tomato. "Plus I'd get to wear a fancy dress. Hannah says bridesmaids get fancy dresses." "You've been planning this, haven't you?" "A little bit. But mostly I just want us to stay together forever. That's what families do." "Yeah. Sweetheart, that's exactly what families do." Later, after everyone left and Sophie crashed on the couch mid-cartoon, Zoe and I cleaned up in comfortable silence. She washed, I dried, moving around each other with practiced ease. "Sophie asked me about marriage today," I said. Zoe's hands stilled in the soapy water. "What did you tell her?" "That families stick together. The rest is just paperwork." She smiled, handing me a plate. "Is that your way of saying you don't care either way?" "That's my way of saying I'm already committed. I don't need a ceremony to prove it. But if you want one, I'm in." "What I want," she said slowly, "is to keep having mornings like this, evenings like tonight, a life that feels real instead of performed. We can do that, married or not." "I know." She turned to face me, hands dripping water. "But I think I'd like the paperwork anyway. Not for show. Just for us. A promise that this isn't temporary. It was never temporary. I know that now. But I'd still like to make it official." She smiled. "Plus, Sophie wants a fancy dress." I kissed her, slow and certain, tasting dishwater and promises, and the quiet joy of ordinary moments strung together into something extraordinary. When we pulled apart, she was grinning. "So is that a yes?" "That's a yes." Outside, the garden grew in the dark. Inside, Sophie snored softly on the couch. And here, in this kitchen, in this house, with this woman, I've found what I'd stopped looking for. Not rescue. Not salvation, just partnership. Love that showed up every day without fanfare, building a life one small choice at a time. We'd started in an alley with a scream and a choice. Now we were here, planning futures and planting gardens and raising a girl who believed family was something you built, not something you were born into. And she was right. The best things always are. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.